Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing a combo deck called Aluren. It's called that because that is the central card of the deck. It's a 4 mana enchantment and it lets you cast creatures with mana value 3 or less for free and with flash. And the idea is we're going to use this and get our Archlich into play a number of times until our opponent is drained out. But we can also use Cavern Harpy and things to cycle through our deck using Baleful Strix and Ice-Fang Coatl and the Channeler. So we're a combo deck that can play a reasonable creature game. And our creatures are probably going to have deathtouch relatively often. So that's quite good in the current meta. We've got an Uro plan as well and a Leovold plan. And we've got these snuff outs in the main, which are more or less to deal with the initiative deck, but they can also come in handy against other things. I've played a version of this deck before, but it was a very poor version that was trying to run leyline binding and had a million colours in it and didn't really work. Now this is a much more streamlined, traditional build. It's done quite well in a recent event, so I thought I'd give it a go on the channel, and I've never managed to cast a Cavern Harpy before in all my years playing Magic the Gathering, so I thought, why not do that right now? Okay, so this deck is also strung together with some Force of Wills, it's Brainstorm's Ponder, the usual good blue stuff. And we should just have a nice time seeing lots of cards, doing our thing, and hopefully being able to go over the top of people using our combo. That's more or less the main deck here. I'm not really an Aluren expert, but I think we can probably navigate it. Sideboard-wise, we've got a few little bits and pieces kicking around. Plague Engineer is a nice creature to have in your deck. I'm not really sure I only have one, but I'm sure that'll become clear as the game draws on. I guess we do have a lot of ways of finding things, and we can bounce through our deck. And then we've got things you'd expect, like a Force of Vigor, Veil of Summer to protect our combo, Force of Negation for combo decks that are faster than us, Thought Seizes for when we need to mess with our opponent's hand, another Endurance to help with the graveyard-based matchups, some Carpet Flowers so that we can pull ahead of blue decks by getting more mana than them, a Grist, which is a nice way of blowing some stuff up, and because it's a creature, we can play it with Aluren, and a couple of Pernicious Deed to blow up a lot of small things. So this is kind of going to be doing similar things to the Plague Engineer in a lot of matchups, I would imagine. But we're just going to play it and see how it goes. As of today, I have noticed that the initiative deck is currently the most played deck in Legacy. It's now gone over 20%, beating out Delver that's currently at 18%. And the recent Legacy Challenge showed us that the most played card in the format in that event was Lotus Petal, followed by Force of Will, followed by Seasoned Dungeoneer. So not necessarily expecting the initiative deck to be around for the rest of this year. So hopefully we can run into it and get some wins with these Baleful Strix and Ice-Fangs, but that may not be a case for too much longer anyway, so who knows. All right, before we jump into a league, let me just say likes, comments, and especially subscribers really help me out. When I hit 1,000 subscribers, I can get monetized, which means it's much easier for me to play all sorts of weird and wonderful things because I can kind of get the money I'm spending on my play points back again. And I can also start running some like proper deck donation things and get things up and running a little bit that way, which would be nice, but I can only do that with you. So by all means, do your best to help me out and like, subscribe and all that jazz. Okay, so like I said, I'm a bit of an novice with this deck, so let's just jump in and see how we go with Aluren. This is Sultai Aluren in Legacy. Alright, we're on the play and this is our opening hand. It's kind of a little bit awkward. We have these two Baleful Strixes that we can't actually cast because we don't have access to both pips of mana because of the basic in our hand. So this forest is kind of jamming us up. But we can maybe ponder into it, and we have plenty of Force of Will food. So I think we're supposed to keep this and try and find a land to cast a Baleful Strix after using a ponder on turn 1. So I think we're going to keep. The forest is our third land, will be totally fine. It's just not very good as our first land. We have choices about what we fetch here. I think we're probably just going to go and get a basic island to be on the safe side here. Let's ponder. So the Ice-Fang is something that we can draw next turn. That'd be useful. The Abrupt Decay is something we don't really want. Yeah, this is all. I think we have to shuffle purely because of the mana we have here. I don't think getting the Ice-Fang and then trying to pull through these other cards is a great way of doing it. So we're going to go any order and shuffle library. Okay, we could come unstuck here, but we'll see. We've got a little bit of protection. Any land does give us the Channeler on 3. A Bayou into the Green Sun's Zen. So this is looking like Combo Elves, which is like probably the third best deck in the meta right now, but it's still a fair ways behind the first two because everything is at the moment, really. Let's see if we can draw that land we wanted. Okay, we're doing another ponder. Let's see if we can find the right lands. So we've got some lands that we would like. I don't think we want this endurance. The Ice-Fang is going to be okay here. Do we want the Ice-Fang? I think we leave the Ice-Fang on top and then the Prismatic Vista. And then we draw the Vista and then we can play it out. And then if we need something that isn't this Ice-Fang, we can shuffle. Otherwise we can draw the Ice-Fang and then crack our Vista. Because you don't really want the endurance because it's not going to do a lot against the Elves matchup. A Glimpse of Nature. I think we are going to be counterspelling this one. And we may as well get rid of one of these Baleful Strixers. They're going to be more difficult for our mana base to handle anyway. So we can play out the Leovold, which stops Glimpse for the next turn. So I don't think we want the Ice-Fang anymore. Because we've got our sort of little guys that draw us cards sewn up here. Okay, that's a pretty good one. Birchall Rangers, sure. Elvish Mystic. Interesting. You don't always see the Mystic in the combo builds, but Birchall is only in combo builds, so it's definitely a slightly different build from your stock list. Okay, so this is going to go get us the basic swamp. That way we can cast Leovold on our turn. And we can shut down a powerful Glimpse turn from our opponent. We'll save the Delta in case we draw a Brainstorm, so we can try and dig into our deck a little bit. Now this might not do anything, this game, to be honest. If our opponent can just play out a Cradle and go big, then it's going to be a bit awkward. But this shuts off Elvish Visionary lines and Glimpse lines, so I think it's profitable. This looks like just a big natural order here. So they sack this. Then this is going to be a lot of damages. So each of these is going to get +4/+4. So this is 19 damage. We can soak up 3, so we're not technically dead. But we do have to block here. Doesn't really matter where we block. This is going to be a bit awkward for us. We can't use this Polluted Delta to cast any spells, so we can't have Aluren as an out now. Snuff Out is a bit of a joke in this situation. This itself doesn't have Trample. They've already seen a Baleful Strix, so I don't mind playing this one out. I'm pretty sure we're just going to concede. I'm not really sure we can draw at this point that's going to be good. That's not it. Okay, so we can concede the game here. So, what are we doing against Elves? These Pernicious Deeds look mighty tasty to me, as does this Plague Engineer. What do we not want here? You're in a sort of a bind against Elves when you're playing these Force of Wills, because you have the ability to counter something scary, but they can just play out the Allosaurus Shepherd and get you. I'm not convinced we want the Borrower. We definitely don't want the Endurances. They can go. I'm not convinced we want the Borrower. It can sometimes buy us a turn, which might be enough. I'm not convinced that's where we really want to be. We kind of want to keep our Cavern Harpies because that's kind of how we're intending on winning the game, to use these to recycle and just draw enough of our deck. I think we probably want the Grist. This is a reusable removal spell, which I like. And there's an option for Thought Seizers here. So these are definitely things we can think about. So if we're cutting these, we'd have to find 4 more slots here. So I think Borrower is worse than any of these cards. The Abrupt Decay is a good removal, coupled with our Snuff Out. The Channeler and the Cavern Harpy is kind of like a combo, because this comes into play, it bounces the Channeler, and then you play the Cavern Harpy and draw it out again. You can kind of do a similar thing with the Strixes, but there's a little bit more flexibility here. I think Uro might be a bit slow for this matchup, so I think we probably can trim on the Uro. Probably need to keep all of our cantrip things. Because we're boarding in more black cards, we're going to want to lean less on green, so I think we can probably trim an Ice-Fang here. And we're looking at 1 more cut. We can't really cut any more blue cards, can we? Was this 4, 8, 9? No, we got loads of blue cards. We're fine for the blue cards. It's either the Channeler or the Euros. Probably the Euro here. Like that. The Euro is good against the fair game, but I think we're probably just better off blowing them up with all these things and then clogging up the works. Again, I'm not an Aluren expert, but the game plan I've set out has some sense. I don't think this is any good. This is quite a slow hand. I think we need to mulligan. This hand is better. We can keep this. We can pitch probably this snow-covered forest. And we can lead out on like an Underground Sea, I think. So if we get an Underground Sea, we can either ponder or we can Thoughtseize here. I think we're better off pondering and then saving the Thoughtseize for turn 2, which is usually a scarier turn for our opponents. So we would like to draw a Force of Will, but it's no good without the Ice-Fang. So we could maybe draw that next turn. But then where does this hand go after that? Like, we've got loads of answers, but we're not really progressing our game plan at all. I don't think it's worth giving up 2 draw steps effectively for these things. It's tricky. I think we can probably do better than this. Okay, so we have our 4th land for if we draw an Aluren, but we will need to find a way of comboing off once we assemble our Aluren bits and pieces. Our opponent can be running Thoughtseize themselves. Fyndhorn Elves, sure. So we're not going to fire off the Snuff Out until we have a look at our opponent's hand and see if we need the Snuff Out for anything. Okay, that's not really what we wanted. So let's Thoughtseize our opponent, see what they're working with. Pretty full grip, to be honest. So we probably want to kill this Fyndhorn Elves. And where does that lead us? The Grist is pretty good with Cradle and can so tick up. We don't have to worry about that this turn. The Symbiote is kind of like the engine that fuels their Visionary, but because they have 2 green suns, they can always just go and get that. Anyway, I think we don't really have a great choice here. There's a sad problem here. I think we're probably looking at the most mana efficient things in their hand would probably want to hit. So it's either Heritage Druid or the Wirewood Symbiote here. At least force them to spend 2 mana to get it into play. And then I guess it's probably the Symbiote. That's probably the easiest way of slowing them down. And then we have to hit this to attack their turn in terms of mana efficiency. Like, we're probably just going to lose because we've drawn lands. I don't think putting that Ice-Fang and Force of Will on top of our library is going to help though. What we need is we need to get on board with something like a Leovold. Or we're digging to Plague Engineer, which is very, very good against this particular build of elves. Alright, so Green Sun Zenith down, and they drew a land for turn. So we know all the cards in the hand. There's just going to be another Green Sun. No, it's just going to be the Heritage Druid, sure. We're not going to crack this in case you draw a Brainstorm, a Ponder. We can fire this off. We can keep the Polluted Delta in case we need to shuffle away some of the cards. Brainstorm, Force of Will, Ponder. I think we can take the Brainstorm here. And right, we'll Brainstorm now because we know some of these cards are pretty good. So we can put these 2 lands back. We can crack this. Go and get ourselves a Tropical Island. Cast a Ponder. We're sort of digging into... Oh, Aluren is interesting. That gives us a shout at winning the game. But we have these other 2 lands that we don't really want to draw through. So I think we'll put the Bayou on top. Then the Delta. The issue is if we keep this Aluren and we have to Force of Will next turn, then we're kind of going to be running on empty. We're relying on keeping this Ponder if we do that. I think we have to shuffle here. Okay, so we have 2 Force of Wills. One can pitch to the other, and then that gives us a Ponder to try and get into the game next turn. So this is probably going to be a Grist, an Elvish Visionary. That's fine, it doesn't give them 3 elves. A Wirewood Symbiote. This does give them a draw engine. I think we just have to snap this off now. Like, we could save it for the natural order, but they're going to Green Sun Zenith and get the Allosaurus Shepherd before they natural order, so I don't think that's a winning line. I think we have to take the line that means that they don't really have what's going on now. The more cards they see, the more chance they have of drawing a Cradle, which is how they go really over the top. I think we cast this first. We're in the same spot again here, really, aren't we? We can't keep this because that's basically 2 turns where nothing happens. So an Uro is okay in this situation. So we've got these 2 Green Sun Zeniths and a Grist. So our opponent will have to Green Sun Zenith for the Wirewood. Is it going to be easier for us to beat a Grist or the double Green Sun Zenith here? We're not actually on the greatest life total right now. If they have a Leaf Crowned Elder in their deck, which I know Rig Duke is quite high on at the moment, I think the Green Sun Zenith finding one is going to be a problem. I think we're going to take one of the Green Suns. Not a big fan of how our turns have gone. We've had a lot of awkward draws of like Ponders where there's been 1 card that we want and then 2 that don't really get us anywhere. Sure. So this is X1. So this is going to be the Wirewood Symbiote, I suspect. Or it could be a Nettle Sentinel if they have... No, it's just going to be the Symbiote. Yeah. So if they've got another elf, they can float some mana and then bounce the Visionary. Otherwise, I think we just bounce Visionary, replay Visionary here. Yeah, sure. So we've slowed them down, but we're not really doing anything. We kind of need this Uro to find us some good action. And there's the Grist. So this does represent a clock that can cause us issues. Oh, they hit an insect, did they? Yes, they did. That's pretty good, because it basically doubles if you hit an insect, which means next turn they can pop it for 1, 2, 3, 4 damage. So they're representing lethal right now, just through the Grists, which is pretty cool. Don't see that too often. I'm pretty sure we're going to lose this game. A Cavern Harpy. Not really the one, is it? So we don't have much to do about this. This is gaining 3 life, and most of the things are hitting us for 1, so this is just going to be better. We don't have a cracker, so there's no point stacking the other ways to try and bounce our guy. We don't have a land here. So we'll need to find another land next turn if we want any hope of being able to cast the Uro. How much are you taking this turn? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we get a 1, so a fetch land will be game if they pop their grist, that is. They might not pop the grist, they might just plus it this turn and then pop it next turn, so this is not lethal right now unless they want to shut off fetch lands. Alternatively, if they have a way of killing one of their own creatures. But yeah, it's looking pretty bad for us. I'm trying to think what we can... So... Okay, so just... Oh, they have the lethal here anyway. Oh yeah, because grist itself is a creature, so when it's in the bin, that it counts itself because it'll be dead. Yeah, alright. Yeah, that felt horrible as a matchup. They're kind of... like the 1 or 2 like bits of disruption don't really do enough, and we didn't really have enough action either. So... yeah, again, I'm not an Aluren expert. I'm sure people who are better at this deck are screaming at me. I've literally just played this deck 1 time, and it was a leyline binding build. So, all right, so let's go into the second round and see if we can do a little bit better. All right, so on the die roll, let's have a look at our opening hand. So, if we have enough mana, we're pretty close to being able to do stuff with our Aluren here. We've got Force of Will to sort of get us through the first turn. Then we can play Baleful Strix on 2. I think this is a keeper. Cavern Harpy with the Aluren will give us the loop. Our opponent mulligan to 6. So I think we just start out on a snow-covered island. Snow-covered swamp from our opponent into a Chrome Mox. So this is looking like the mono-black like Douthie Helm deck, potentially. It's the most common snow-covered swamp into this. That looks like a Rotting Regisaur to me. A Douthie Voidwalker. Do I care about Douthie Voidwalker? I think we probably race Douthie Voidwalker. Excuse me, Douthie Voidwalker. So I think we can leave this one for now. So we go and get ourselves a snow-covered swamp. Play out a little owl. Okay, so we have an answer down the line. Our brainstorm's going to have to find us some mana, but I think that's fine. So in an ideal world, we could brainstorm, Abrupt Decay next turn, the turn after Aluren, kill our opponent with a Force of Will. So this is probably going to be a Helm of Obedience. A Shoulder of the Apocalypse. Considering my plan involves casting a Brainstorm, I don't really want to do that. I don't really want this to resolve. I don't think this is a Leovold game. I think we'll pitch to Leovold. Now, we can come unstuck if they have a Helm, but the fact is we're trying to win the game with a Brainstorm in the next 2 turns. The Snuff Out is going to be pretty bad here, but hopefully we can get rid of the Baleful... yeah, okay, so we can get rid of the Douthie Voidwalker next turn. So we don't need 2 Allurens, and we don't need both of these lands right now, so we can put back whichever one takes our fancies. And then we can play out our Tropical Islands. This gives us access to Abrupt Decay, so if they play a Helm now, we can kill this, which is why we hit the Shouldered. I don't think it was too unreasonable to hope to hit a mana source off of that Brainstorm. Now we're going to need a little bit more from our deck, like a Cavern Harpy or something, but I think we take the hit from this first anyway. I don't think our life total is going to be the biggest roadblock to losing this game. Helm of Obedience. We'll just kill this right now. So we could try and play around and get them to activate Helm and then mill us and then kill the guy in response. But if they don't have a land and crack it immediately, then we're just going to be left with like having to hold up the Abrupt Decay next turn. That's not really where we want to be. So we can play this out. Our opponent's got 2 cards in hand. We can attack them with the Baleful Strix, I think. So if I play the Aluren, it can give them instant speed, Douthie Voidwalker. If I play this Aether Channeler, I can bounce this to stop them from being able to deploy it, or I can bounce this Chrome Mox and try and mess with our opponent's black mana since they might have missed a land drop. If we play the Aether Channeler to bounce one of these permanents, it's going to take us a lot longer to assemble our combo because we know what the top cards of our library are. This is a tricky decision. I don't think we can play the Aluren out here because it gives our opponent too much, because it gives their guys flash as well. It means they can play around with Douthie Voidwalker really effectively, and we can't like remove it, bounce things very easily. So I think our choices here are either deploy the Channeler and bounce the Helm, deploy the Channeler, bounce the Chrome Mox, or deploy the Channeler, draw a card. Not sure which of these is the best. I think we have to impact our opponent's board in case they have a Douthie Voidwalker. I think we will... If we bounce the Chrome Mox and they have a Doughty Voidwalker, we lose the game. So I think we have to bounce the 4-drop here. This Snuff Out is pretty blank. And we've got another Aluren to draw through as well now, which is a pain. So this is just going to be the... Oh, it's a Sheoldred. Okay. So we have this removal spell that doesn't actually do anything to the Sheoldred. So it's pretty bad. So we're going to take 2 from this. I don't think we can play the Aluren out here. I think we hold back with the Baleful Strix, and we can use that to block our opponent. But we are going to get drained out in a few turns by this Sheoldred. And we can't cast Snuff Out. Non-black creature. This is presumably the Helm. Yeah. Cavern Harpy, please. Ice-Fang. So our combo involves us drawing a lot of cards, which is a real problem. I think we just have to pass a turn here. So we basically need to draw Acererak the Archlich to win this game, I think. Which is a 1-of in our deck. We can't really afford to draw many more cards. A Doughty Voidwalker, sure. So that's the Helm active now. Interesting. I guess we cast the Ice-Fang holding up our mana to represent Abrupt Decay, so our opponent might not play into it. But I'm pretty sure they can have us here if they want us. Okay. Now, I can always activate Helm of Obedience with this on the stack, so we can draw from a dead library. Another Ice-Fang. Yeah, we don't want our opponent to see our deck. Actually, we can cast another Ice-Fang, and if we hit Abrupt Decay, we're not dead. We get another turn. Nope, we're dead. Alright, sure. So first things first, we need to get these Snuff Outs way out of our deck. These are complete deck cards. So the Veil of Summer is okay here. The Endurances don't really do very much against... They can't even, like... It's not a pain to kill because they... where they put the cards into your graveyard, they actually put the cards into your exile zone. So that sort of thing doesn't help. Pernicious Deed can sweep up their mana rocks and their little guys, so I don't hate that. Grist the Hunger Tide is a decent enough guy. The Veil of Summers can mess with their discard if they're running it. Force of Vigor can blow up Helm and Mana Dorks, but the issue with this is that it can't... If they just play and activate, then it doesn't really get us anywhere. Thoughtseize can mess with their hand and stop it coming down, so it's probably better than from that. The Force can also stop our opponent playing their win condition. It's going to be very difficult for us to remove Sheoldred. So I think we need to have the Thoughtseize in to deal with the Sheoldred. The Abrupt Decays deal with Rotting Regisaur as well as the Doughty Voidwalker. I don't think we need Leovold here. Uro seems fine. We're probably going to be trading resources and then maybe just be left with that. And that seems okay to me. The Aether Channeler has a lot of good targets to bounce. The Ice-Fangs are unlikely to get in there with deathtouch, I think. So maybe we can trim a couple of those. Especially if we're looking to blow the world up with the Pernicious Deeds. We kind of need to keep our combo-y bits intact. Are we really just thinking about the Ice-Fangs, or should we not keep these Veil of Summers in? Like, we didn't see much in the way of disruption from our opponent. It might just be on a Karn line instead of that. So maybe we don't need the Veils of Summer. Alright, let's try this. So we have Thoughtseize into Ponder Thoughtseize into Uro. So we can play a pretty functional Uro game here. Okay, they're beginning with the Leyline, so not so much of a functional Uro game, but we do have the Brazen Borrower for when the time comes. So we don't... These decks tend to not run Wasteland, so I think we can get an Underground Sea for turn 1. And I think I'd rather Thoughtseize my opponent here in case they have the turn 1 with all the mana acceleration. Okay, our opponent's just got 2 Thoughtseize and nothing else. Alright, so they're probably going to take our Ponder. Could be our Brazen Borrower though, because obviously bouncing the Leyline sets them back a long ways in terms of getting them to win. So there's the Urborg, there's the Thoughtseize. What are you going to take? Is it the Ponder or is it the Borrower? They took our Thoughtseize. That's interesting to me. Okay, I think we're probably better off pondering here more than anything else. Setting up our future turns. An Aluren. Like, we need the Aluren to win at some point. Force of Negation is nice. We don't really want the Tropical Island, so we can shuffle that one away next turn. So we probably put the Aluren on top, and then the Force. And then we don't shuffle, we draw this. And then we can play out a fetch land, and if we need to get rid of the Aluren for some reason, we can do. Otherwise, we can untap and bounce the Leyline. There's the Ancient Tomb we know about. A Rotting Regisaur. Sure, that's fine. We can let that chew up some cards from our opponent, and then bounce it. Does that mean we want the Aluren right now? I think we're in an okay situation. We can take the Aluren and bank that for later. Now this is no longer... yeah, this is no longer going to be... what do you want here? Tropical Island probably, so we've got one of each. Yeah, so our fetch land is no longer going to be Uro food, and we're not going to be bouncing the ley line here. So our Uro is most likely going to be used to pitch to a Force of Negation down the line, but we can let this eat some of their cards up. Okay, so there's an Urborg gone. Let's see if they play out a card here or not. I think we can take the 7 and just try and let this drain more cards from our opponent, and then bounce it. If they end up empty-handed, we can bounce this with the trigger on the stack and clear it that way. But we also have Abrupt Decays in our deck, so we have a nice clean answer to it somewhere. And we have a load of Death Touches. Obviously, the Ice-Fangs won't be Death Touchy, but the Baleful Strixes will be, and we have ways of countering most of their removal spells, I guess. So what is this going to be? A Karn. I don't think we can tussle with a Karn. And we get rid of this Uro. Okay. So now it's back to us. We've drawn an Uro. We can play out Uro just to draw a card here, but it's 3 mana, gain 3 life, draw a card. I'm not convinced that's a good play. I think we probably have to bounce this turn. I have 1 mystery card in hand. I think we have to bounce it because we can't let them get a Doughty Voidwalker, because if Doughty Voidwalker is something we can block, we can't block, sorry, whereas we can block the Rotting Register. Okay, our opponent has a Helm of Obedience. They have no mana sources, so we need to be able to deal with this on the next turn, otherwise we lose the game. Alright, a Brainstorm. Which mana do we want to keep up? Probably green. A Boseiju is a pretty good one. 2 of these have got to go back. We don't really want the Uro. We can probably keep this here. And then we're going to want this mana to play the Aluren later. So we're going to draw the Aluren, crack our fetch land, ponder. So if our opponent activates the Helm of Obedience, it will take away our Aluren. So I think we are inclined to just destroy this right now. This means if we want to, we can try and play an Uro, but we're starting with very few resources to get that going. So our opponent's got 1 card in hand, it's Rotting Regisaur, which I have to imagine is the play for them this turn. Shouldered the Apocalypse, that's a pretty good one, unfortunately. Sure. So this hits us for 6 on the next turn, 7, 8. So cracking this fetch land is going to be real bad for us. I think we have to... if we play the Uro, it gains us 1 life total. If we crack this, we will die. I think we just have to ponder and see if we can get there. Okay, so the Baleful Strix doesn't feel great. The Ice-Fang isn't going to have Death Touch. Oh, lordy. I really don't know how we can beat this. I think we have to go any order and shuffle an Uro. So I think we are just dead. We can play this. So we take 1, then we take 3, then we gain 3. So we end up on exactly the same life total we're on now, which means we'll die in our next upkeep. So I think we're just dead here. Yeah, Shouldered was a bit of a beating there, unfortunately. I think if they just redeploy the Rotting Regisaur, we can win that game pretty handily. But yeah, we don't have removal for Shouldered in our deck either, so it's just kind of lights out for us because this hoses our combo. Like, yes, if you have Acererak, you can ignore it because you can just go through dungeons, whatever, just keep playing the guy. But to get to Acererak in this list, you need to go through loads of draws with Baleful Strixes and Cavern Harpies. So it just felt like that was always going to be difficult for us because they have Disruption. They had a way of shutting off our Uro on turn 1 with the ley line, so we couldn't just play an Uro game to get the value. It just felt like we were a little bit outclassed in terms of how what they do matched up against what we do. Alright, on to another round. We're on the play, we're winning die rolls, not necessarily games, but we're winning die rolls. We have a Brainstorm here that can hopefully do a decent chunk of work for us. I don't hate this hand. We can fix it. I think we keep this. We're in a bit of an interesting choice here because we can play out, if we play out the Underground Sea, it means that our Brainstorm can be better because of a fetch land. If we play out the fetch land, we can't be wastelanded. Question is, how likely do I think I am to get wastelanded on turn 1 if I play an Underground Sea? It's a tricky one. The current format is basically Initiative, Delver, and combo decks. So 2/3 of those don't play wastelands. Yeah, go on then. We'll try. We'll see if we can play the Underground Sea just to maximise the leverage of our hand with a Brainstorm here. Every time. Sure. So I think we are brainstorming here in response. Okay, so these are a pretty good selection of Magic the Gathering cards. I don't think we need the Leovold here. I suspect that our opponent is running Delver. So I don't need Leovold, but I would quite like this Uro for later. So we'll do it that way around, sure. So this is probably getting us a basic land for a Ponder here. Cavern Harpy, Force of Will, Uro. We kind of need a land, so we're going to ship these. Alright. Looking a little bit dicey over there. Cavern of Souls. Okay, is this D&T? 60 card D&T maybe? Wizard. Okay, so it could be like a Cephalid Breakfast build. Green. Universal Automaton. Okay, I have no idea what my opponent is playing, which is kind of cool. Doesn't happen very often. What do we got here? A Cavern Harpy. So we have the win if we can achieve more mana. So I'm going to play out a thing that can draw us some cards and hopefully get us some more mana. An Aluren. Not really the one. We're going to need a green source. Relatively sharpish. An Urza's Saga. Sure. I have no idea if I'm supposed to block this. I'm going to go with no, because it's just a 1-1. They wouldn't be attacking it if they cared about losing it, right? That's the logic anyway. So we have two choices here. We can play out the Uro this turn, or we can play out the Ice-Fang. The Ice-Fang means if we draw a land, we have two guys that we can bounce with the Cavern Harpy. But the Uro is just more life, I think, isn't it? So if our opponent is trying to beat us down, I'd rather have the Uro. Doesn't really matter which way we stack the triggers, I don't think. Yes, I'll put this land into play. If this was a non-basic land that could be wastelanded, I wouldn't have put it into play. So next turn, we should have an Aluren win. With Force of Will backup, so we can counter removal spells, but we obviously can't counter wizards. Now, what wizards our opponent's going to play, I don't really know. We could be looking at Spell Stutter Sprite, which could be interesting. We'll see. Dwarf. Okay, so our opponent might just be a Changeling deck, since they're naming like some pretty wild creature types here. Let's see what happens here. Now, there's a non-zero chance that we play Aluren and our opponent like goes off. But I suppose we have a thing. We have a Force of Will, so we should probably do the thing. I think we play that one out first. Whenever you or a permanent you control becomes... okay, so we don't care about that. Let's draw a card here. Acererak the Archlich. Alright, let's see what happens if we play this one out. We're kind of trying to bait some action from our opponent. So they're trying to make an uncounterable Spellstar Sprite, would be my guess. There is the uncounterable Spellstar Sprite. So that's the reason we played that out now. Otherwise, this could have hit our Archlich. So now we try this guy. We don't have Force of Will backup now. Okay, we get to kill someone with a dungeon, perhaps. So we will go... which one is the one that has the... Dark Pool, I think, is the one. Okay, our opponent's conceded rather than let us go for it. So I think Dark Pool in the middle one is the one that gets you there and it drains life for 1. So basically we just loop that over and over again because our guy costs 0 to play. So we got an Aluren win. Our opponent is on some wild stuff here. But if their creatures are all creature types, I would like a Plague Engineer. I also think these Pernicious Deeds are going to be useful. If they got a lot of 1/1s, then maybe the Grist is going to be useful. We saw an Urza's Saga, so there's a possibility that Force of Vigor is good here. But again, I don't know. I didn't see anything that made me immediately assume Endurance would be good outside of Flyers. I think the Force of Vigor purely because our opponent showed us some Urza's Saga is probably worth thinking about. Now it's a case of we're probably playing like a slower, grindier game here. So maybe we don't want these Force of Wills. We just want to play like a board control type game and just gain value and win that way. So maybe we're looking at actually keeping in the endurance here for the purposes of having some like relatively beefy creatures that can tangle with Flyers. So we're sort of boarding out of these. It doesn't feel like our opponent is doing a combo. I'm just trying to think. If they are doing a combo, it's going to be like permanent based. So I think having our removal is probably fine. I'm just trying to think what they could be. I think I saw some sort of like Changeling based combo deck. I can't really remember enough about it. We've also seen Caverns as well, so I'm less inclined to play the Forces. Oh, I've just submitted 61 there, haven't I? Okay, that was a mistake. I should have taken out one more of the Endurances. That's on me. So what does this hand do? It doesn't have a great time versus Wasteland. I can't use my Snuff Out either. I think we should mulligan this one for more mana. Okay, this is fine. I would quite like to keep the deed. I think we probably get rid of the channeler here. This does create 2 bodies against our opponent who's trying to have a load of bodies. Now we'll get rid of one of the Strix in case this way we can loop into the combo if it comes up more easily. We can get more cards. Potentially with the Cavern Harpy we've got both of these, and this gives us flexibility for bouncing a thing. Ignore me when I talk about the combo thing, that doesn't actually work, does it? But this gives us more flexibility in terms of what we can do with our opponent's permanents, which I think is a good place to be. Moth Dust Changeling. Okay. Our opponent is on some wild stuff, and I approve. So, this could get us a basic island. I think we can operate under a basic island. And then this one probably doesn't get us a basic island. So we're looking for things like removal spells, like this. Ponder is also good. Channeler is fine, we'll put that on top. Wait, we're going to need to shuffle some of these away. We want this Abrupt Decay. We can't cast it right now, but we're going to be brainstorming pretty soon anyway. So hopefully we can brainstorm into a way of casting it. Sure, and there's a Saga. Right, so we're getting in like a Magdam, I guess. Okay, this feels a little bit combo-y because you can... So this is tap and untap creatures you control against flying until end of turn. So they can tap both of these to get some treasure tokens. They can ramp out pretty quick mana-wise, but the Abrupt Decay that we're hoping to leverage is going to be useful here. So we know one of the cards on top of our library, so I think we cast the Brainstorm here, and then we do a Ponder. I don't think we need a Leovold or a Channeler right now. This. So this is probably going to be for a black source. So it's probably going to be... It needs to be blue as well, so I can cast a Ponder. So it's probably going to be Underground Sea. If they've got a Wasteland, they're going to get us, but I think we need to be able to cast our spells. I think we're going to shuffle this. A Force of Vigor. Okay. So we can blow up the Urza Saga and a treasure in their upkeep. So they don't get to make any tokens here. Like, that seems fine. And then we can hopefully clean some stuff up with Deed in a bit. Yeah, we'll get rid of the Decay. Like, it's not an amazing play, this, but I'm not really sure what my opponent's doing, so I kind of have to... Alright. So we stop them getting any value out of their Saga. Like, they have mana because all their guys tap for stuff. So these are going to attack and generate some treasure tokens for them. I don't know what my opponent's doing, but it's really cool. White mana? Okay. Clock of Omens. Tap 2 untapped artifacts you control. Untap target artifact. Interesting. A Prismatic Vista. So we need this to find a green source so we can play our Deed. But I don't know if we want to play our Deed without being able to crack it immediately, because there's all sorts of nonsense going on here. I think we're going to cast this guy and bounce their Clock of Omens. Just do a tempo play, get them to recommit to the board maybe, and try and get the Deed going. Feels like our opponent can kill us soon. A Caracas. That can protect their Magda from the Deed. I imagine this is tapping for treasure rather than attacking. Or it's just being animated so that when it taps for mana, it makes a treasure. Like, we'll snap off this trade with the Channeler if they are attacking. Well, they are attacking. Interesting. So if we can draw a land, we can clean up a lot of their permanents here. Opponent's on some cool stuff over there. An Aether Vial. Sure, that's another one we can clean up if we draw a land. We did not draw the land. Kind of want to keep the Deed as a surprise. We still didn't draw a land. It was getting a little bit dicey over here. The Plague Engineer can clean up their permanents quite nicely though. We just name Dwarf and we get both of them. But I have no idea if our opponent can combo us or what, because I don't know what our opponent's deck does. Okay, so there's the Clock of Omens again. So they can... Okay. So they've got 5 treasures here. This is tap 2 untapped artifacts, untap target artifact. So basically every time they make 2 treasures, they can use that to untap something. So what are they untapping is the question. I honestly have no idea. Our opponent has tapped down their Caracas, so we might be able to... If we had more mana, we might be able to kill the Magda, but I think we probably just have to blow up all of these 1-drops and... Oh, okay, so they sack a load of stuff into this to go and get a dragon. Okay. What dragon is worth doing all of this for, one wonders? Okay, so this is an artifact. So, okay, so if they get 2 of these, they tap them to make mana, then they'd use them to untap one of them. Oh no, they tap 2 artifacts, yeah, to untap this guy. And then they tap these two to make another one. So they can basically make a load of treasure. So they can get a load of dragons out of their deck here, right? I think this must be the deck that I saw before. There's some sort of like dragon that's got like a... so you can do triggers of it coming in and dealing damage. Maybe that's how they're going to win this game. They're just going to do this until they get a load of dragons in play. And they'll dome us with them all. We're only on 9, so it shouldn't take them too long. But I would normally scoop. I'm just curious to see what our opponent is doing here. It's always good to see something different. I'm getting a lot of shapeshifters. Then what do? Then get creatures that deal damage equal to dragons in play with Magda. I just want to see what the dragon is called. I just want to see what the dragon is called so I can know the text of it. Let's just see what they get. Scourge of Valkis. What is this? Whenever it enters the battlefield under your control, deals X damage to any target, where X is the number of dragons you control. So this is going to ping us for 3, and then they get more each time. So I assume they have several of them. And they just... Yeah, so they got 4 of them. So this one... So they were going to get all their changelings out first anyway, so we're doing a load. So I imagine the deck is just full of changelings. Interesting. Okay. That changes the maths on some of these cards now. So they need Clock of Omens to resolve to win the game, as far as I can make out. So that makes these cards good. I think the removal stuff is still fine. We don't want these endurances anymore. The Pernicious Deeds would have been great if we'd have got to them. Same with the Plague Engineer. Are we looking at... I don't think we need the Leovold here. The Force of Vigor seems okay. Still, we can blow some stuff up with that. They got a lot of artifacts. It wasn't the most exciting Force of Vigor I've ever seen. I think we're probably just on like a fairer game plan here. So probably just cutting some number of Ice-Fangs here. And the Snuff Outs, none of their creatures seem to be black. The Brazen Borrower is probably not that strong. The Channeler is good at doing our combo though, so we need to keep that in. Maybe we're just cutting another Ice-Fang. We're just basically playing like a control deck with this Aluren in. I'm really unsure how to board with this deck. We could be playing Thoughtseize here, but I think we're probably better off with the removal spells. I don't really know what I board out for the Thoughtseizes. I guess you could like trim on some ponders or something. I don't know. Alright, let's just submit like this and see how we go. Aluren's a deck with a lot of moving pieces, so it's not always the easiest to navigate. So this makes an Uro relatively well. We have a lot of fetch lands. We've got a redraw with this. We also don't get shafted by the Wasteland. Hopefully we can play the Uro rather than having to pitch it to Force of Vigor. That would be nice. Mana Confluence. An Abrupt Decay, that's a great draw. So we're already playing into Wasteland, we may as well play in harder now. So we would like a Tropical Island for sure. And then this one, probably an Underground Sea. I think that's best for the configuration we have at the moment. So this is blue and black. Let's get another draw in. In an emergency, we can pop this Force of Vigor if we need to. Okay, a Ponder, that's excellent. That gives us a nice way of digging into our deck a little bit better. A Plow on our guy, that's fine. Rather it went to the graveyard for Uro purposes, but beggars can't be choosers. Okay, a Saga. I don't think we need to do any Force of Vigor shenanigans unless our opponent gives us a very good target here. FS1 Canonist. It's a pretty good target. Do we want a 2 for 2 ourselves here? Maybe. So I think we... So this stops our combo, but we don't really care too much. So I think we are looking at playing out... so we may as well get a Bayou. So we've got the set here. And then we'll cast this guy. So green, blue, black. Oh, we should have stacked the triggers the other way around just so we can get the land to play there. Okay, so then we can crack this for a Snow-Covered Island. Cast a Ponder. Oh, we can't cast a Ponder because of the S1 Canonist. That's right, isn't it? So we can brainstorm on our opponent's turn if we need to. So now, I think we probably want to Force of Vigor our opponent's Saga and Canonist. I think we do get rid of the Decay here. It's easier to find removal pieces rather than our combo. I don't know if our opponent can realistically play counter magic in their deck. But we have stripped our opponent back to Mana Confluence and we have 4 lands. So we are quite far ahead. Secluded Courtyard. So this is... Okay, so it's just like one of these tribal lands. Alright, I see. Haywire Might. Cool. So this can allow them to activate the Haywire Might to blow up our Aluren. I see. I don't think we want to play out this Plague Engineer just yet. I think we're better off casting a Ponder because we don't know if we're going to have a fetch land for a Brainstorm yet. We do have a fetch land for a Brainstorm. So put this on top, and Do we even want the Force of Will at this point? I don't think we do. Yeah, let's just go again like this. Okay, this is not a great land for us to draw. Okay, I think we will cast this. Brainstorm. Okay, so we have a Force of Will if we want it now. So we can put back the Swamp that we don't want, and we can put back this Trop. I don't think we need to fire off the Ponder now because it's a blue card for Force of Will. And next turn we can just play Uro and be holding up Force of Will. Alright, so this Haywire Might is going to bash us up for a little bit. And then we're just making the Uro this turn. Are we getting Endurance? We're not getting Endurance, so we escape this. So we need green, green, blue, blue. And we get rid of some lands. We'll do. We get ourselves a cheeky little Uro. Doesn't really matter which way the triggers go around this time. Plow on our Uro. I think it's worth saving the Uro here. Like every turn that this is in play is just so good for us. Put in a blue source. So if we can untap with this and attack just once, then that's going to recoup a lot of our card the card disadvantage from the Force there. Oh, we had a Caracas. Oh, sure. So we still can cast this and gain a card off of it. So it's not the end of the world. But it's just a bit annoying. So we have the Abrupt Decay now if we want it. So I think we are on blue, green, and 1 for the Uro here. Draw another card. We don't have a land to put in. So we don't actually have the combo yet because we need to have the Cavern Harpy and one of our bounce guys. So I think we'll pass and we'll hold up this Abrupt Decay. If we need to, we can Abrupt Decay the Haywire Might, but we can also Plague Engineer it away. So we have multiple options. We could have played the Cavern Harpy out just to attack with, and we can always pay life to do it, but we need to return a creature to do that. So we couldn't have actually done that, could we? Sure. A Secluded Courtyard. So we could have played the Plague Engineer, the next turn Cavern Harpy, bounce back the Plague Engineer and sort of reuse it as removal spells. Feels like our opponent might be trying to go off in one turn here. I'm not sure how easy that's going to be for them. Clock of Omens. Sure. Snow-covered island. That's not really the one, is it? So we'll play this guy out. 1, 2, 3. If we name Insect, this will hit all of their shapeshifters as well. So they're getting 2 life from that, but that's fine. We've got a Abrupt Decay if we need it, so that's fine. I like the spot we're in right now, but they've blanked our Uro, which is something. Okay, we don't really care about this. Okay, Cavern of Souls, only 2 cards in hand. So they need Magda and a little Changeling. So they need like Moss Dust Changeling as well, maybe. Alright, let's see what they have here. So this looks like a Magda. That can't be counted, sure. I think our opponent's going to have a bad time now. So if we draw a creature that draws us cards, we can probably win the game this turn. That's not the one we wanted. So we're going to cast this one. We're going to reset our Plague Engineer on Dwarf. And our opponent's going to be very unhappy with this. I feel bad for doing. So we're keeping up Abrupt Decay. Sure. So they're bouncing their Magda, but if we put this on Dwarf, it means they can't get any shapeshifters into play at all. And the Magda will die by state-based effects before they get to do anything. As soon as they get priority to do any activating, it's going to die. So we're in a pretty good spot here. Again, we do need the way of winning the game, but we're not a million miles from it. We can do a loop with the Uro, actually, can't we? Thinking about it. So if we play the Aluren, because our creature's getting flash from it, we can play out the Cavern Harpy, then we can Uro, and then we can just combo this way. So we have the win. The only problem is our opponent has a Caracas. So if we cast the Cavern Harpy, it'll bounce the Uro. So we basically need our opponent to tap out of their Caracas. This doesn't really help us. But we're ahead on board anyway, so we may as well just get the beatdowns going. So we're in a spot here where we can either hold up a Force of Will, or we can play the Uro. So I've decided not to play the Uro there. So, because that way, if we keep it in hand and our opponent ever taps their Caracas for some reason, we just get to win the game. An Aethervar, that doesn't do anything. So I think we're just in a fine spot here. Another Cavern Harpy. Does that change the maths? Yes, it does. So we get to kill our opponent this time. We're going to get attacked to get the damage, because it means you have to go through less loops of the dungeon. Our opponent's got 2 cards in hand, and one of them is Magda. So we're going to pay 1 life to return this to our hand first. And then I think we cast Aluren. This is green, green, 1, 1. So then we cast without paying its mana cost. Because we have 2 Cavern Harpies, this should be a win. Alright, sure. So we went through the combat there. Yeah, so we got a win with Aluren. Possibly took me a little bit longer than it needed to, but I kind of was inclined to play like the slower, controllier game in that matchup. I maybe could have pushed for a combo earlier. I can't remember. I think their Crackers was untapped though, so I don't think that was going to work for us. But yeah, so that's a nice little demonstration of the loop there. So we actually got 2 Aluren wins in that matchup rather than just beating down or anything. All right, let's go on to the next round. Our opponent's mulligan to 6, but Island Ponder is a good thing to keep as a general rule. We just need the mana to get to Aluren, then we can win. We can even chump block with a Cavern Harpy if it's an aggressive deck. I think we do keep this. Now, if our opponent plays turn 1 White Plume Adventurer, they're probably going to win the game. But we do have the possibility of drawing into Death Touches, which can slow them down. They've gone to 5 cards, so it's looking slightly better for us. But if they do turn 1 White Plume, it basically undoes their mulligan because it draws them a card and gets them a land in the first few turns it's in play, really. So let's see how we do. Bloodstained Mine. Okay, so we're looking at Reanimator rather than an initiative deck. Sure. Got a bad lands. We got a Faith is Looting. So our opponent's telling us we probably want to try and find a Force of Will next turn. Okay. They got Lotus Petal and Reanimate. Dark Ritual. Into Exhume. Animate Dead. Okay. Can we beat a turn 1 Grizzlebrand? I don't think we can beat this. I'm going to do. So these Snuff Outs probably aren't going to be very helpful. I would very much like to have another Endurance though. These Veil of Summers are pretty relevant and the Force of Negations are good. The Replicators are bad. That only leaves us looking for 1 card. Okay, so I've managed to have an okay-ish slot there. We probably also want Thought Seizers as well, don't we? Just to disrupt our opponent. These Aether Channelers are probably a bit... Like, we just need to win the game, right? So... Well, we just need to not lose the game. So we can have, like, Uro lines. Leovold is going to be good to stop all the extra draws. I think it's probably Ice-Fang that goes. Maybe that's wrong. Oh, here's a green card to pitch to Endurance, isn't it? So maybe we should be boarding out the Baleful Strix here. Because this one pitches to both of our pitch spells. So it's slightly better. Sure, we'll give that a go. Let's see what we can do. We have an Endurance, we have a Ponder, we have a Brainstorm. I think we can... We have the Graveyard Hate that our deck can do. Our opponent's gone to 6. So if they go for a Reanimation without any disruption, then we'll be okay. But if they disrupt us, then we won't. So it's kind of the nature of playing Endurance as your Graveyard Hate. It's not the be all and end all. So they're not going to mess with our mana base as a general rule. So we're going to cast a Ponder off of an Underground Sea. We're looking for a counter spell, so we're just going to shuffle these. We found a counter spell. So we have Uro to pitch to Endurance and Force of Will to pitch to Brainstorm. Brainstorm to pitch to Force of Will. Okay. A Lotus Petal. 1 red mana. Faith is Looting. Sure. So this means we're going to have a window to Endurance them away. Oh. Okay. No guys in there. And they binned off a thingy and they're not playing a land. Alright. We're in a good spot then, I guess. Sometimes the opponent's fail rate will be real. If we Brainstorm now and we find a Ponder or a Thoughtseize, that's worth doing. So I think we're going to Brainstorm. So there's a Thoughtseize. There's one of the cards that I wanted to find. I don't think we need this Boseiju, so that can go on top. And then... So we might need the Uro to pitch to Force of Will and the Aluren to pitch to Endurance. So we're probably putting back the Snow Covered here. This has to get us a black source to cast the Thoughtseize. So we should have sequenced our turn a little bit better around the lands we had there. Right, let's Thoughtseize our opponent and see if they got Show and Tell. They do have a Show and Tell. Okay. Get out of here, Show and Tell, I think. Okay. So they can Thoughtseize us. This Snowcover Swamp feels really bad when we're trying to cast Uros, though. Or bad lands. Sure. So they did find their land, and we're probably getting Thoughtseize this turn. I don't think it's worth me pitching 2 cards. We're probably just going to lose one of our guys. One of our pitch spells here. They might take the Aluren, though, if they think we can combo them out. And we're not a million miles away from it. We need 2 more cards. And in a desperate situation, we can always play it, play the Uro. And then, okay, so we lost the Force of Will. So they're playing for the... oh, wow. Okay. This is a good situation here. So we get the Tropical Island. So if we play out the Uro now... So we know our opponent has a Grief, is the issue. So we play out the Uro now. Well, we're probably losing this Aluren, right? We need to play as if they're going to grief the Aluren away, because that's the thing that's likely to happen. I was going to say we could keep this, and if we draw a land, we can try and endurance next turn. But I think our best bet is to just make sure we get the card off of this, because we're probably losing our Aluren next turn anyway. Not a big fan of drawing this Force of Will here. Like, it has text, but it's not really text I want to use necessarily. If it stops a show and tell or something, or reanimate, then that's fine, but I'd much rather use my endurance. And not going for the grief this turn, interesting. So maybe we would have got away with it if we held it. But then again, we would have drawn this Force of Will instead of a land, so we'd have been sat at the same place as we are now, more or less. This snow-covered swamp is pretty ugly. Yep, okay, so they are doing the grief. So this grief is... What do I want to do with this grief? Alright, let's see what they want to take here. So they got 2 cards in hand, so we know they're not reanimating this guy just yet. So pitch their Exhume, so I don't think the grief is... They could have a reanimate here, I suppose. In which case they take the endurance or the force, but we kind of have both. We kind of have them covered either way. Okay, so they've taken our combo piece. So this is a defensive grief, as I thought was going to be. I'm surprised they didn't take the Aluren though. They want to reanimate their grief. So interesting. I think we just do this. This, like, our opponent's got 1 card in hand and it's Arcane Cruelty. We've got 3 lands in play, they've got 1. We are a blue deck with loads of cantrips, so I think that favours us in a big way. We now have a Force of Will to buy us more time if we need to. We've got more things that just draw us raw cards, so I think we're in a good spot. Sure, a Lotus Petal. So if they draw a land, they might be able to show and tell, but again, we have the Force of Will for it. We definitely have the Force of Will for it. What I would like is to get some more mana to cast this Uro from our graveyard. Okay, our opponent had no play there. Okay, so now we've got a Brainstorm. So I think we would rather leave open black, blue, so we can cast a Baleful Strix. I think is better. So we're going to Brainstorm. Let's see. Okay, so we have a Cavern Harpy. We have a Force of Negation. We have a lot of riches here. So we're going to put this on top and this on top, and then we're going to cast this. And then next turn we can Cavern Harpy this back, and then get deeper into our deck. And we've got a little draw engine assembled between those 2 cards that we can slowly grind our way out, which is something we've not actually had the opportunity to do yet. We've kind of been a little bit under the gun. So we get our 1 point of damage in. We've got double Force of Will protection, so I'll be surprised if this game went awry. It's not impossible, but it feels like we're in a commanding lead. So we want this, and let's just go back. We've assembled the combo without Aluren. So this looks like a Faithless Looting. Is it worth Force of Negationing this is the question. Because this stops them getting more redraws. I think I will. And we'll pitch this Borrower, because I don't think the Borrower is going to do much good. Because this exiles it. I wouldn't normally spend it on a Faithless Looting, but this means that they're not going to have anything in their graveyard to reanimate, and they're not going to have more ability to loot later on. And every turn cycle if we can draw some more mana, we might be able to do the multiple drawings. Okay, so this isn't the one, unfortunately. Right, so we're getting our opponent lower, so if we can get them low enough that Grizzlebrand isn't a worthwhile thing to do. I'm going to play this one out, so black, probably blue on this one, Leovold. I guess we're playing this out. And then next, so we can bounce the Cavern Harpy in emergency here, if we need another blue card. Another Ice-Fang. So just more ways of drawing cards here. I think we're in a good spot. We have to try and win a 3rd game though, which is going to be more problematic because we're going to be on the draw. So we're not going to have that little ponder buffer there that we had in this game. And our opponent knows what we're doing a bit better as well. This could be something like an opposition agent, maybe. Here we go. Maybe we just want the Leovold to shut off any of their discard stuff. Again, we can bounce the Cavern Harpy if we need a creature. If we need another card to pitch to Force of Will. We don't need the 2nd Ice-Fang either. So if they do get a Grizzlebrand in play, they can't draw lots of cards from it. Yeah, okay. I think we managed that one okay. But now we've got to try and do it again on the draw. So we've got our 6 Force of Will effects. We've got a couple of Thoughtseize if we get a turn. We've got our 3 Endurances. I don't think it gets better than this, so I think we resubmit. We have Force of Will blue card. Is this good enough? I don't think we can realistically mulligan to 2 answers. So having 1 answer is fine. I'm not in love with it at all, but I think the chances of having double answers dramatically goes down when you go down on cards. So what they could have here is a Faithless Looting into a Dark Ritual. If we counterspell this, we definitely get another turn. If we don't counterspell this, we might not get another turn. Tough. Really tough. If we counterspell this, they can just go next turn. We kind of have to hope that they're on like an Entomb Exhume hand. So I think we have to counterspell this. Because this means that any reanimation spell they have is live. So we might have burnt their Dark Ritual as well, which could come in useful for later turns. So I think we want to untap, hold up Veil of Summer, and hope for the best. It's pretty much the situation we're in here. A Brazen Borrower, not really doing it for us. So we know our opponent has a reanimation spell of some description. Faithless Looting, sure. And that's not ideal. There's an Archon of Cruelty. Okay, that's something we can bounce perhaps, if we need to. A Leovold. Doesn't do well in the face of the Archon of Cruelty, sadly. Alright, so we just passed in a turn. 4 cards, we know one of them is a reanimation spell. An Exhume. I guess we let this hit us. As much as I hate that. I guess we discard a Leovold. Then we can bounce this. It's not great, but it's probably the best we've got. Okay, so let's cast this Veil of Summer. Sure. So they pitch 2 cards to grief us, but that's not going to do anything because we have protection. Okay. This turn we're looking at Brazen Borrower and a Ponder probably. So I think we Ponder first. This can get us a source to cast our bits and pieces. We only get one of these cards. I think the Ponder's probably the best one to keep, isn't it? So put this on the bottom. And this one. Shuffle your library. No. Play this out. We crack this for a blue source. Probably Underground Sea here. And then we Petty Theft on this. Opponent's got 1 card in hand. Now, they have a Faithless Looting in their graveyard, so putting this back into their graveyard isn't going to be that difficult. But the idea is that we can draw the things to go off before then, which is certainly possible because we're most of the way there. All right. Ponder. Hook us up, Ponder. Maybe we should have taken the Baleful Strix last time instead. And then we could have tried to go off this turn instead of the Ponder. But we would have had to have drawn the land in order to do that. But maybe just putting yourself in a position where you need to draw a land is good. Okay, so we can kill our opponent next turn. Shuffle your library, no. And we also get to cast Thoughtseize on our opponent this turn to make sure that we're okay. So we don't want this show and tell. It's probably more like our opponent draws a fetch land than it is they draw a reanimation spell. It's tough though. They certainly gave us a choice there, didn't they? So they're going to entomb at end of turn. So if we had taken the Baleful Strix instead of the Ponder, we would have been able to win this turn if we drew a land. But this turn, because we did the Ponder, we had the ability to Thoughtseize our opponent and stop them having a show and tell line. Oh, shucks. Sure. So the line we took was not the one. We went for the more protective line rather than the combo one. Now, if they don't have any discard, we can still win the game. But our opponent can draw another 14 cards to find a discard spell. They can also just reanimate another creature. Sure. So we're probably losing the Aluren here. Yeah. And we know the top 2 cards of our library are Death Touches. So maybe one of them can stop the Grizzlebrand attacking. But if they put an Archon into play somehow, then we just concede. So yeah, I think that's my unfamiliarity with this deck getting in the way there, because I was instinctively, like I did in a previous game, instinctively went down a slightly more control-y route to find more answers when I should have just been like, okay, let's set ourselves up so we've got draws that can win us the game next turn. Yeah, maybe it is better to have kept the Baleful Strix there. Okay, so there's the Archon of Cruelty, we can concede to that one. So, am I willing to call that a misplay? Probably, yeah, I think we can call that a misplay. Like, it was a line that I took specifically to try and find more interaction with our opponent. And a lot of the times that interaction would end up well, but I think the other line just requires us to draw 1 land. And I think that's more likely. So ending the game on the following turn is better than having just a Ponder to try and do some work with the next turn. Like, the line I took also plays around discard a bit better, because if they discard one of our combo pieces, then we have nothing. So I think that makes sense to try and play around the discard by giving us a ponder to find more actions if we're getting hit by discard. Because our opponent was accumulating resources over there. I don't know. It's hard to say. I think in hindsight, maybe I should have just gone for the combo because eventually our opponent's going to find something. I don't know. It's tricky. Again, I was just thinking I'm a blue deck and I can find the answers when I should have been the one posing the questions maybe. So that game was definitely winnable. And I think it was a pretty good learning experience maybe as well. All right, let's go on to the next round. We're 4 for 4 on dice rolls today, so that's something. We have Ponder, we have Island Ponder, and we have Endurance that we can pitch cast if something goes wrong. So this seems like a perfectly good keep to me. We can go and get a basic and then worry about what lands we get with the other ones afterwards. So we can go and get us basic Island, just Ponder, another Baleful Strix, and then these 2 lands. Do I want to have to draw through 2 lands? We do need to make 4 lands in the course of a game. So I think this is fine. We can probably just leave them on top as is. Then we have more options of what to pitch. I mean, we'll have all the lands we require for our Aluren when the time comes. And then we can also, if we draw any more, we can try and brainstorm them away. That sort of thing. A Gemstone Mine. Okay, our opponent is possibly on Dredge or on Dark Depths, like Turbo Depths. That's usually what Gemstone Mine says to me. So there's this land that we knew that was coming. So we can play this one out. And we can play an Ice-Fang at instant speed. So there's no need to rush here. If we need to play the Endurance, we can. Cephalid Colosseum. Okay, that's certainly looking like Dredge to me. A Breakthrough for 0. And they did not hold priority. So they're basically just going to draw 4 cards and discard their whole hand. And then next turn, I get to just cast Endurance and our opponent will have no resources. Interesting. Very interesting. We probably should have cast the Ice-Fang there, but I pressed the wrong button. All right. So this will probably get a concession from our opponent. Probably want the Bayou here. So green, green, blue. Cast this. Shuffle our opponent's graveyard into their library. I hate doing that to a poor Dredge player. If they have a Careful Study, they shouldn't really be using it now. If they have a Breakthrough, it's arguable as to whether you cast a 1-mana mill 4 spell. If they have a Breakthrough, they're casting it X+1 though. That I do like, because if you find any sort of draw effect, then you get to then keep it. So that's a very good draw for them. Oh, I miss playing Dredge. Back when Dredge was good, before they printed all these Endurances that is in everyone's main decks now. Okay, Grief. Okay, so they're on the Grief build. Makes sense. So I think we want to play the Ice-Fang last. So what land is this going to get us? This is going to get us a Underground Sea or a Trop. Underground Sea, I think. Yeah, okay, so we're right to cast this one. So the reason we want to keep the Ice-Fang last is in case we draw an Endurance and we need to pitch cast it. So I think we have a second Endurance in our deck. So we can cast the Ice-Fang on our opponent's end step. So we have no need to do that right now. If they had some sort of Dredges in their bin, maybe we'd do that looking for the other Endurance. But that's not the situation we're in right now. A Careful Study, that's a good one. 7 Colosseum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they can pop their Colosseums to mill themselves 3. Sure. So they get a Narcomoeba off here. They have 2 Cabal Therapies. They have no bridges. They probably don't want to sacrifice it. Oh, wait, they're 2 Narcomoebas. Okay. But because they don't have any bridges from below, that's probably not where they want to be. Oh, they had a Golgari Thug in there. Okay, so they are dredging. I must have missed the Thug. Alright. Interesting. Okay, so next turn they can get these 2 Thugs back. Oh, it's because it's different artwork as well, isn't it? What's this? What's in that one? Alright, so they probably don't want to Cabal Therapy us because they're not going to get any creatures from it because they don't have any bridges. Have Nicarid for next turn. They also have the Cephalid Colosseum for next turn. They should be activating their Colosseum in their upkeep. The reason for that is... Oh, hold on, let's just finish doing our turn here. So you want this Underground Sea. And we will make this. The reason you want to cast it in your upkeep is so that you discard the cards so you make sure you've still got a Thug in your graveyard in case things go a bit badly with what you find with the Dredges. Alrighty then. We have this Brazen Borrower. That can do some stuff. So we can kind of bounce both of our opponent's creatures. That's really annoying for them. Probably Island here. So we can also hold up Abrupt Decay to kill one of our own guys. That's always a nice trick to get rid of bridges. So we're probably casting... We can cast a Channeler to bounce one of these into their hand. But then they'll have another card to discard. So it's not really going to make a difference, is it? I think we should probably just be looking at... casting this guy. Drawing an extra card. Another Channeler. So I think we can attack with the team. They have one Icarid, right? Yeah, it's only one Icarid coming back this turn. We can hold up the Abrupt Decay in case they get any Bridge from Belows. We can kill our guy in response to anything, basically. And we have plenty of disposable guys at this point. So they're going to... Okay, they got rid of their Grief. So they should be cracking their Cephalid Colosseum in their... Okay, they made a mistake there, in my opinion. Because if they do this now and they don't hit dredges, they might not get the full 3 dredges here. Okay, so we've got another Icarid and a Hogak. Let's pop out our opponent's graveyard. That's going to make our lives easier, isn't it? Okay, Stingwing Imp. Still no bridges, though. Interesting. So the Hogak isn't castable right now, which is a little bit of an issue for our opponent there. Like a Cabal Therapy targeting us. What are they going to name? I don't think they're going to name any of the things we actually have. So I'm going to just let this hit. And then the next one, if they do cast another one, then we can get rid of it. But if we draw an Aluren, we're relatively on the way to winning the game. We have a lot of draw effects. They named Endurance. Okay. I think we would have cast Endurance if we had one there. I don't think that's a good name. They didn't want to go for the guaranteed hitting on 2 of our cards in one thing. So this would be a nice time to draw Channeler. We can always just play the Brazen Borrower here. Just actually hard cast. We can't actually hard cast, can we? We can bounce there. I think we bounce one of these guys, right? Give them less things to sacrifice. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Alright, so we have a Ponder. So if we Ponder into Endurance, then I think we're in a good spot. None of these are Endurance. I think we get any order and we shuffle. Okay, so our opponent's going to hate us. So green, 1. Cast this lad. Ping away their graveyard. Yeah, so we get the concession. 2 Endurances in the main deck against Dredge. I feel dirty. They didn't hit a single bridge either, so they can certainly feel aggrieved about that one. So, Force of Negation has text on it. Pernicious Deed has some pretty good text on it. Snuff Out is not going to do anything here. The extra Endurance I would very much like. The Veil of Summer is okay here. I don't hate the Veil of Summer at all. The Pernicious Engineer... The Plague Engineer is okay. It can stop Narcomoebas a little bit. The Grist can provide some blockers, but not really. The Leovold is fine if we get into play. I think we probably don't need the Borrower. We need to keep all our green cards. The Abrupt Decays aren't great here. So probably getting rid of those. And then we're looking at cutting a few more little bits and pieces. It's probably the ones that don't pitch to everything. The Euro works with Aluren just as well as Baleful Strix does, and it also pitches to our Force of Negation and our Endurance. So we're probably looking at trimming Baleful Strix, maybe. Our Ponders and stuff can find us Endurances, so we need to keep those. There is an argument for the Veil of Summers being instead of Ponders or something as well, but I think we're gonna try it like this. On the play, we can board in the Thoughtseize to try and disrupt our opponent, but they're probably going to have Leyline of Sanctity, would be my guess. So we can Force of Will the first scary thing our opponent does. And then we've got our combo, we just need an Aluren. So maybe this is okay. I feel like this deck wants some mana acceleration or something like Noble Hierarchy type Birds of Paradise maybe. I think this is keepable. Leyline of Sanctity, sure. So we're not going to be able to Endurance our opponent here. A Lion's Eye Diamond. This needs to get Force of Will. The most broken starts our opponent has are with Lion's Eye Diamond. If that's their only mana source, then they can be hamstrung for a little bit longer. So now we're on the old Ponder train. We have this Endurance, but Endurance doesn't do anything here. So I think we only order and we shuffle. A Boseiju. Okay, so Endurances are good again. Sure. But obviously if we didn't shuffle, then it wouldn't have been good. So swings and roundabouts, I suppose. They won't have a thing to fetch with the Boseiju most likely either. So what are we doing here? We can play our opponent's end step. We can either make an Ice-Fang or we can make the Boseiju. Considering our opponent doesn't have a anything in play right now, I think we just want to... So we get Underground Sea. We already have a green source to cast our... Yeah, we have a green source to cast our Cavern Harpy. I think we might want another Trop though. Let's get a Trop here because we've already got the swamp in hand. Alright. Green and blue. Get a card. Sure. And then we cast this one. Get our measly attack in. Cast this. Bounce this guy back. Kind of need to... Our opponent's probably got 12 or 13 lands in their deck. Now what they can do is they can just go to natural discard here. I'm surprised they didn't do that, to be honest. So this is just going to put some things in their yard. If they've got a Lion's Eye Diamonds, then I can understand why you would make this play. But otherwise, you can just pitch, and it's going to be the same as doing this. But I guess next turn you might be able to have the thing up and running. Okay, a Baleful Strix. So we can cast the Baleful Strix, or we can cast the Ice-Fang. If we cast the Ice-Fang, we won't have a green card to pitch, so I think we want to cast this one. So this is black-blue. If we draw an Endurance here, we can nuke their graveyard if we want to. Okay, if we did not draw that. So now we're probably looking at playing this snow-covered island, and attacking for 2, sorry. And then we can play out our Ice-Fang, and we just need an Aluren. The Plague Engineer can't kill our own creatures, otherwise it would be quite useful to put on and stop our opponent being able to cast to be able to get value out of Bridge from Below's. But that's sadly not the state we're in right now. Sure, so they're going to get a decent amount of dredging. So we're going to pop their graveyard out so we can keep a close eye on what's going on. They have a Hogak there, they have a Narcomoeba now, and they have 1 bridge. So they won't be able to make Hogak this turn. They know we have an Ice-Fang here. So the question is, do they want to Cabal Therapy the Ice-Fang out of our hand? I don't think they should. We're not going to Boseiju this at end of turn, because if we draw an Endurance, we have enough mana to... Actually, is that true? Yes, this can go and get us a Bayou. So we can Boseiju and then hardcast the Endurance that way. So this way gives us more chance of actually drawing that as a thing that we can do. All right, a Brainstorm. Interesting. An Endurance. Okay, so we play this out. We're going to get ourselves a Bayou. We cast Boseiju, targeting this for green and blue. Cast this for green, green, black. And we get rid of our opponent's graveyard. And we go to attacks. We can bounce the Cavern Harpy if they block it. So our opponent has to start from scratch again. Now they're probably going to be able to do that, I would imagine. Yeah, okay. So they're probably going to have some resources. Yeah, okay. So there's a thing they can put in their graveyard. But now they are set back somewhat. And we just need to find an Aluren to win this game. Okay, Bridge from Below and Stinkweed Imp. That's not too scary for us. Means they can pop the Cephalid Colosseum next turn though. Let's find an Aluren. Aluren, please. That's not an Aluren. Interesting. I think we put those 2 back. Play this. We can crack this now. Go and get another Underground Sea. Yeah, that gives us most options. And I think we attack with everything here. We can bounce the Cavern Harpy if they block. So this is going to get them a Bridge from Below token. That is fine. And we're going to take some damage. And then we're going to cast this. So green, blue. A Force of Will. So we have a Force of Will that we can cast and a Force of Negation. I think we're in an okay spot here. Our opponent's only on 7. Okay, so they've dredged and put a Narcomoeba into play. They have 1 Bridge from Below. They do not have a Cabal Therapy. A Faithless Looting. This is an interesting one. I think we are supposed to Force of Negation this one though. Now we're keeping this one because this lets us draw more cards. And we need to draw lots of cards to find the way that wins us the game. Okay, so let's scoop it up. So that's the end of the league. And we went 2 and 3. So let's have a little chat about the deck. So I definitely think my early games were not ideal because I'm pretty much new to this deck. The build I played before was kind of like a weird meme version of Aluren rather than like a proper Aluren list like this. So I definitely misplayed. If I went back and watched the video, I could probably tell you how. But right now I can't really remember. I imagine I didn't think about using Uro for our combo chains as much and just used it as like a backup plan and sort of went into I'm a control deck with a I'm like a mid-range deck with a combo plan in it instead of I'm a combo deck. So I probably just had the wrong mindset, which didn't help. So I imagine if you've been watching, you're probably quite annoyed if you're an Aluren player. But you know, when someone picks up a deck for the first time, they're going to be making some mistakes. There was also that game where I chose to keep the Ponder instead of the Baleful Strix against the Reanimator player, where that could have given us the win. I chose to play the more conservative line to try and find some answers to our opponent's things, as well as be able to continue playing the game more if we got Thought Seized or something like that. So, because if we did get Thought Seized and they took the Aluren, then the other line, we still get to draw a card off of our Baleful Strix, but the Ponder would have let us see 3. But I think maybe I should have, well, I say maybe, I definitely think I should have taken the Baleful Strix then, just to give us the win, as well as drawing 1 card isn't as good as looking at top 3 and drawing 1, of course, but it's still fine. It's still card advantage. It's still digging you, And I think that would have been a fine thing to do if we did get Thoughtseize off of Aluren. I think it would have been okay. So that's a thing. The snuff outs today were really bad, but we did play against the mono black deck, which is not really ideal. The mono black shoulder deck against a deck that aims to basically draw its deck is tough. Our only answer to the shouldered was our 3 bounce spells and obviously counter spells, but we counterspelled one of them and then, you know, we had to counterspell things that were killing us and eventually one just slipped through. So I feel that matchup is probably difficult. They didn't seem to have much hand disruption. Surprised me. I thought they would have had more, but so be it. So I quite like the deck. I did find that I wanted a way of accelerating on turn 1. I feel if I'd have had some like Noble Hierarchs or something, so I could go like Hierarch into Uro, or Hierarch into Highcast Endurance, or Hierarch into the Channeler, or Hierarch even into one of our 2-drops plus a Ponder type effect. Any of those things I think would have felt pretty good. Now, whether or not that's a thing you can do in this deck, I've definitely seen Aluren builds playing Noble Hierarchs, so it's certainly an option. I've also seen Green Sun Zenith builds, so there's definitely a lot you can get. But what's quite clear to me here is we have 4 Baleful Strix, 4 Ice Fangs, 2 Snuff Outs, and 2 Abrupt Decays. So what we're aiming to do with this deck, by the looks of it, is play Death Touches against the initiative deck. Death Touches with evasion, so I can try and fly over and steal the initiative. Kill White Plume Adventurers and Seasoned Engineers with these, or also just counter the scary thing and then take over the game that way. So I can see why this deck is built this way. We somehow didn't have to play against the initiative today, which is nice. It's a pleasant change. I'm surprised, really, because that deck is the most popular deck in the format now, which is a problem in my opinion, but there we go. But so I can see why this deck is built this way at the moment. The Singleton Emissary of Trest is an interesting one, because we're not like a Green Sun's Zenith list. Like Singletons like this are odd to me. So a Singleton like obviously the Acererak, you're going to draw for your deck, you'll find it, you win the game that way. And Brazen Borrower is something you can draw for your deck, find a thing to bounce the thing that's messing with you, and that makes sense. But this one, when you're comboing off and drawing your whole deck, I don't necessarily know why you would be wanting this, if you know what I mean. So it's nice when you draw it, but if you're just drawing through your whole deck to combo off to find it, it's not really going to do anything. Maybe there's something I've missed there, and there is a better reason for it. I'm sure Aluren players have a better idea than I do, but this is just my thoughts on this coming to it is completely fresh to the deck and playing it horribly, which I apologise for. Sideboard-wise, some of the things didn't come up, but that's just how Magic is sometimes. Carpet Flowers, I think, is really good in those matchups because you're trying to resolve a 4-mana spell. Carpet Flowers kind of helps you sort of cheat that a little bit because you can have way more mana to work around and play various bits and pieces. So I really like having 3 of those. I think that makes sense. The Force of Figure, it was good against that weird little deck that we played against. You know, it was fine. It did some work there, and I understand why it's in the deck. The Grist as a singleton, again, is a weird one, but if you're drawing your whole deck, this is a removal spell, so you can draw your whole deck and then kill something, so that makes sense to me. Makes more sense to me than Leovold. I think these maybe should be the other way around, perhaps. I'm not sure. The Plague Engineer, again, is kind of similar. I'm not sure why you would need the Plague Engineer as a singleton, though. We're not like Fiend Artisaning for it. So I think some of the one-offs don't make a lot of sense to me. Maybe it's a holdover from previous builds that were like running Green Sun Zenith and things, and that's kind of how it's gone. But obviously, whoever's built this deck is a far better Aluren player than I am or probably will ever be. So they know what they're doing. Anyway, I quite enjoyed this deck, but I felt like I was at the mercy of the top of my deck a little bit. And, you know, we had some ponders where it was like, okay, we can't keep this because it's got too many lands on it, so we need to kind of pitch this, which is the nature of the card. But the fact that we got to shuffle it and go again is fine. But it just felt like we needed a little bit more mana to sort of get ahead. That was my main takeaway of what felt missing for me in those particular games. Now, that wasn't the most representative selection of games, truth be told. Like, Dredge isn't really in the meta very much. The mono black deck is kind of hovering around a little bit, but it's very low numbers. The weird combo deck we played, I've never even seen it before, so... Reanimator is a popular deck, and we did make a play mistake that I think cost us that game. So there's definitely some learning there. And what was the other matchup we played? It's quite late and I can't remember. But yeah, it's not like we played... we didn't really play Delver and Initiative and Elves was the other matchup we played, wasn't it? Yes. So Elves is quite a representative deck at the moment, and I think they just go pretty hard on us. We don't have a lot of removal. One Plague Engineer isn't going to do enough work in that matchup, really. I think Elves is going to be beating Aluren relatively well, so I don't feel too bad about losing to that matchup. I think our like sort of 4 removal spells, 5 with the Grist. They're like the Pernicious Deeds are fine, but they're quite expensive to get up and get going. So I just think that matchup is going to be difficult, especially since if they have Allosaurus Shepherd, your entire Force of Will plan, which you kind of need to keep in because we don't have enough removal to board it out, that just goes by the wayside. So I guess we did play two of the decks that you sort of see up as sort of between the sort of 4 and 10% of the meta push maybe. But we didn't see the 2 big decks today. But yeah, I thought the deck performed quite well. I think if a better player was piling it, we easily get the 3-2 there. I don't know whether we can get the 4-1 out of this particular league. I think the other place to maybe try and get a win is against the mono black deck, but I don't know. I probably did make misplays, but I can't think of any immediate ones that are glaring at me in that matchup right now. Maybe I should have mulliganed more aggressively for certain things. I'm not sure. But anyway, so that's Aluren. I quite enjoyed this deck. I don't like playing creature decks unless they're creature decks that have combos in as a general rule. But this seemed fine. I think having all these little guys are fine. I really like the 2-mana 1/1 Death Touch guys. I think they're really powerful cards at the moment. And I think this deck list is one of the sort of fringe decks that maybe has a chance in the current meta because it can actually go and have some relevant plays against the Initiative, buy quite a bit of time against them, and also have a combo win, which is kind of what you need to do. So like Force of Will to stop their first thing when they mulligan, because as soon as they get Initiative, they kind of undo any mulligans. So I think this deck is probably a good choice. Maybe not necessarily this exact build, but I think you need to put a lot of work into this. This deck has quite a lot of operations in it, and it's got a lot of sort of mapping out turns in advance, and you can't just sort of race to your combo because the earliest you can combo is turn 4, so you kind of need to pace yourself a little bit here. But I think this deck is reasonable. Now, how long we're going to be living in the Initiative world, I don't know, because we have a banning update coming out with the next set, so maybe it won't be a thing we have to worry about anymore. We can just go back to hating on Delver, I suppose. But yeah, this deck is a deck that I think is reasonably well positioned at the moment if you've got the time to learn it. But it's also a deck that's sort of always in the fringes anyway, so it's not just like a weird thing that's only going to be viable now. So if this sort of thing appeals to you, I think it's worth learning it. And it's got a decent number of cards that are sort of transferable anyway. The only one that isn't really is the Aluren, and like the Acererak is like cheap anyway. So it doesn't really matter for most of this stuff. It's just good fashioned magic, really. All right, we are done now. I'm quite tired and I've rambled a little bit, but there we are. I'm sort of playing something I'm very unfamiliar with, so it's a little bit hard for me to sort of collate my thoughts properly. But I hope you enjoyed this league and got to see something a little bit different and a bit unusual, and didn't have to see me play against Initiative, so that was fun. All right, just before we sign off, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if my rambling at the end of videos is too long, or my deck texts are too long or too short. Let me know how you feel about that. Let me know if there's any decks or particular cards you want to see built around, and we can work on those later. And if you know anyone who's interested in legacy content, please share my content with them, especially on places I don't use, like Reddit, for example. If you can go on that and post my stuff, that would really be great for me. And yeah, we're done now. So thank you very much for watching me, and goodbye.